Hello and welcome to part 1 of my Final Fantasy XIV Deep Dungeon Guide for new players. My name is TSDS and in this video I'll answer two very simple questions. What is it and why should I care? The Deep Dungeon, more commonly referred to as the Palace of the Dead, is a role-indifferent, gear and level independent, multi-floored, item-based, randomly generated grid dungeon, with a boss encounter taking up every 10th floor with an opportunity to delve deeper or leave after each boss. So let's break that down. The Palace of the Dead can be completed with any group composition. This means you'll have groups with no healers, or everyone is a DPS, or you'll have 3 tanks, etc. This is pretty nice for DPS, as queue times are the same for all players. That said, the difficulty does raise the deeper you go without at least a healer, but don't worry about that for now. So, gear independent. What? Another nice feature of the Deep Dungeon is that it doesn't care what gear you have. Everyone is given an Aetherpool weapon and Aetherpool armour that start off at level 1 and can be levelled by finding silver chests and getting lucky. Don't worry about that for now. The higher level these are, the stronger you'll become. However, they will be synced to your current level, preventing you from getting too big for your current boots. This brings me on to levels. Your character level inside the dungeon is independent from your actual level in the rest of the game. Like your equipment, you'll start off at level 1 and gain experience and levels through killing monsters. These levels only count while inside the dungeon and are reset when you repeat floors. For example, every time you enter at floor 1, your character will be level 1. Fortunately, gaining levels inside the dungeon is much faster than outside. Now, as I've mentioned floor 1, it's a good time to mention the rest. Think of this dungeon as a load of mini dungeons all stacked on top of one another. You'll first enter floor 1, and once you clear it, you'll be able to teleport down to floor 2, and then floor 3 and so on. The dungeon works in sets of 10 floors, as every 10th level will just contain a boss encounter. Once defeated, your group, if match made, will be done, and you'll have the opportunity to give a commendation, and then either leave the entire dungeon or queue again to go deeper. Note though that even if you leave the dungeon, you will be able to continue from where you left off from outside, so you don't need to do it all in one sitting. The game also allows 2 save slots to record your progress. In terms of it being item based, during your exploration you will find many treasure chests containing pommanders. Each pomander can be used to execute a different effect, such as revealing the map, removing traps, or turning into a giant beast of untold destruction. You can, however, only have 3 of each type of pomander at any one time, but pomanders will be covered in more detail in their own video. So, as I mentioned at the start, the Palace of the Dead is randomly generated using a grid system. What this means is that each floor of the dungeon, barring the boss floors, is comprised of a number of square rooms connected to each other. What these rooms contain and how they are laid out is random for every floor and every visit to the dungeon. As a result, each trip into the palace will be different than the last, and players will need to explore in order to find treasures and the way down, among other things. Right then, now you know what the Palace of the Dead is, you might be wondering what all the fuss is about. Basically, this dungeon is a very nice way to earn experience, as every 10 levels you clear, even if you're clearing the same 10 over and over, will give you a nice chunk of real game world experience. And as it doesn't matter what role you are, it's even nicer for DPS players as they don't need to sit in half-hour long queues all the time. On top of experience, you'll also find rare treasures in the form of the Accursed Horde. In order to prevent bogging this video down with too much information, I won't explain them now, but think of them like little loot bags filled with random happiness. Except instead of happiness, you'll get bitter disappointment 9 times out of 10. As far as actual gear goes, when your Aetherpool weapon and armour is strong enough, you will be able to obtain versions of the weapon usable outside of the dungeon. These, however, can only be used at level 60 and no armour can be gotten. So, as you basically sort of don't get any real gear from the Deep Dungeon, it can be quite easy to obtain a high level and find yourself still wearing your level 20 rags, so be aware. The same NPC who you'll get those weapons from can also offer other rewards if you trade your Gelmoran potsherds for them. The potsherds are another type of treasure that can be found only very rarely, and while he mostly only trades them for materia, you can get a couple of pets and a flying mount. And that brings me to the end of the video. In the next one, I'll cover unlocking the palace and how queuing and saving runs work. Thank you for watching.
ether, ether.